Hello, YouTube. Wanted to do a commentary about some of the stuff that some companies like Activision and EA have been talking about with subscriptions for their games. And I think that's kind of an interesting topic. Um, so I decided to make a short video about it. First of all, I have to apologize. I do have a cold, so I will try to make this video as non-gross as possible. But hopefully you can overlook my stuffy nose. Alright, let's just jump straight into it. So, a couple of companies have talked about maybe in the future doing subscriptions for their games. And I think that that's really interesting. Partly because I do come from I've played MMOs, that's in my background. And so I am accustomed to the idea of paying a subscription for a game, but I think this is the first time I've heard anybody talk about this for a game that isn't like an MMO. And if you're not familiar with the MMO genre, it makes sense to do a subscription for a couple of reasons. And we'll just use World of Warcraft since that's by far the most popular one. First of all, you have lots and lots of servers. And these are permanent servers. Once they're up, they're for good for the lifetime of the game, typically. And people create characters on them, and these things need to have extremely high availability. So you're talking about the cost of running a data center, just bills, support contracts, maintenance contracts, hardware upgrades, support staff. Some of that money from subscriptions most likely goes into content, future content, support staff. Hopefully I didn't already say that. And then a small portion of that probably goes into profit. I really don't know what the portion is. It would make sense that they would build some profit in there, right? So it's just MMOs are very expensive to run, I would assume. And the goal of an MMO is to keep players happy. It's a subscription service for a reason. If you don't have anything to do, if you've done it all, and there's nothing new to do, nothing to look forward to, you're going to unsubscribe. Likewise, if the game is just not very good, it's not living up to expectations, if the customer service is terrible, if the servers are always crashing, any of those situations, if you're not having fun when you sit down to play, you're probably going to unsubscribe. So the meta game of MMOs that charges subscription has been to basically to retain those subscribers, to get people to want to keep playing, for example, World of Warcraft. And one of the ways they do that is frequent content updates, PvP seasons, holiday events. I mean, there's really... I played that game for like 6 years, and I frankly just never really ran out of stuff to do, even though I put an obscene amount of time into that game. So that's what you get with MMOs. That's typically what people that have experience with it are thinking of when you say you're going to charge a subscription for a game. Likewise, kind of the death of an MMO is typically when people no longer feel like it's a valuable, their $15 a month or whatever it is subscription fee is worth it for the game as it is. And once they lose enough subscribers, that's pretty much the death knell. Okay, so with all that out of the way, I think that kind of explains my position on what I'm thinking of when somebody says subscription. So if we talk about a game like one of the popular shooters, Battlefield 3, Modern Warfare 3, whatever it is, how do you apply that to that type of game? Now, for a subscription to really be worth it, I'm thinking that that needs to include dedicated servers. I think it needs to include DLC map packs that are typically, in the past, have been purchased separately. Maybe it needs to have some features that have never existed before, like some kind of online ranking system, which they kind of all have that already anyway, but maybe it needs to borrow something from like StarCraft and actually have, you know, like this concept of ranked ladder matches. You know, but I really think the funny thing about the subscriptions is it's fine for them, you know, it's all well and fine for them to say, oh, we're going to start charging a subscription for this game, but I don't think that it will actually succeed if there isn't something to pay for. MMOs are actually one of the reasons I spent 5 minutes talking about MMOs is because they are the proof that this is the case. People will not sit around paying $15 a month for a game that they're not enjoying. And so that the onus is really on the company that wants to charge the subscription fee to make that happen. Would it be a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. You know, if you're, let's say, we'll just use Battlefield 3 hypothetically. You know, if I'm paying $15 a month for it and I'm getting the same thing I am now, which don't get me wrong, I enjoy the game, but if it's the same as it is now, and I'm still having to pay separately for expansions and map packs, and nothing new is coming along with that, no dedicated servers, you know, then no. I think what will happen is people will play it, they'll take their 30 days free game time, they'll play it, and when it's time to renew their subscription, they'll unsubscribe. Now, if the subscription fee was accompanied by some kind of, you know, well, all the stuff I've talked about, some cool features, you know, an aggressive content release where we're getting, you know, guaranteed map, you know, for like the life of the game, we're going to get, you know, X number of guaranteed DLC map packs, where, you know, maybe something cool like I mentioned with the StarCraft 2 style ladder play. You know, there's lots of room for it to be good, but I just don't think that they should actually even attempt this without really kind of redefining what those types of games are. Now, in the background here, you see me playing some Borderlands. This is an example of a game that I think subscriptions could actually work for. And the reason I say that is there's lots of content, and they release some expansions, and it's got a fun co-op. You know, if something like this actually somehow made the transition to like an MMO type of game, I think totally people would actually pay to play something like this, especially if you had dedicated servers. You know, you make friends, you get like a clan, you can go do some kind of crazy hard world boss that takes like 30 minutes to kill, you know, stuff like that. Yeah, totally. I really do think that a game like this, maybe tweaked a little bit, would have the potential to be worth a subscription. And I think that's the thing they need to really evaluate when they're talking about subscriptions. And maybe it's in their interest to clarify that, hey, we're not talking about just, you know, same old thing, but now you got to pay $15 a month. We want to do XYZ cool thing with the game, and that's expensive, you know, so you're going to have to pay for it. Whatever. You know, those guys are smart. They have PR people. They could communicate this better than they have. And if their idea was something ridiculous, like people will just pay more for the same thing, then I actually don't think that gamers would go along with it, and it would just fail anyway. So that's my piece on this whole subscription nonsense. I hope that, you know, for the sake of just the gaming community and having fun games to play, that they do it smart. If they don't, you know, that's really on them. There's going to be other good games to play, free-to-play games coming out this fall, and maybe we'll just all be playing those instead. See ya.